Welcome to the second game of round one in the unofficial Wombat Invitational Tournament. This game is featuring Grant playing Imperials and EZ playing the Rebels. Got some filming here from the black perspective, so this might provide a little bit of a different experience than my usual games where you guys are forced to watch me kind of twitch back and forth as I make my own decisions. So we'll see how this goes. So starting off, some things to notice about the map. There's no Seleucami, so Rebels have an opportunity to build alliance in both Utapau and Mon Cal. Otherwise, fairly strong Imperial layout. Otherwise, got a loyal Corellia. We always like that. Got Mustafar that you could rule by fear at, and also potentially moving to Ord to get another assault carrier. So it should be a pretty strong Imperial layout here. Grant looks like he's going for 3 major fleets, pretty standard. Mandalore, ROTE, Coruscant. And with the idea of possibly rule by fear in Mustafar, possibly subjugating Ord Mantell. And then looks like the Death Star hanging out in Mustafar will just have a single ATST on it. EZ is starting with, looks like he's starting with Threaten the Core. So he's got an interesting decision here for deploying. Do you deploy units on Utapau? Do you deploy on Mon Cal? That basically guarantees Rebel loyalty there, success early. Or do you go and try to score Threaten the Core? In this instance, he looks like he's putting 3 on Utapau. That's a good conservative move here. I like it. Not sure where he'll pick for the base. The reason why you go with 3 on either Utapau or Mon Cal is that way in the base, there's only 11 units left. So if there's a probe attempt by the Empire that succeeds, they only get 2 probes. Also, deploying on Utapau gives your build alliance a good chance of succeeding, hard to block with the Emperor. If you don't deploy on Utapau or Mon Cal, you attempt to build alliance, and the Emperor may block it with a 3-on-3 roll, especially if there's no 3PO. All right, let's see what we got going on here. EZ is going to pick a base, and I have not moused over it intentionally. Nope, I guess I do mouse over it. It's Dantooine, so that's where we're at. All right, you can see EZ's playing with the ROTE deck for Rebels, and Grant is playing, I believe, with the base deck here. We will see. Okay, starting action cards. We've got a temporary alliance in hand and a false orders in hand for the Rebels, but it looks like EZ is not going to open up playing that to get the Mon Cals. Interesting choice here. He's going with all base missions, reserving nobody back to move, so not likely to score Threaten the Core here. No big deal. Grant has some interesting options too. He can subvert with the Emperor, which will make the build alliance tough to pull off. Interesting choice here, because even if he tries to subvert on Utapau, you're going to get a 5v4 roll. So not sure how I feel about that, but we will see. Also, he's playing an R&D to attempt to clear off Corellia in case it's sabotaged. The problem with that is if the first attempt is build alliance, or an early attempt is build alliance, then the Emperor will have to move, and then Tarkin will not be able to go last, and the sabotage could still go through. So we'll see how this all plays out here. Rebels open with an infiltrate. That should probably be a sign to Grant that there's no backbreaker missions coming up on turn 1. At least that's usually how I interpret an early infiltrate. All right, Imperials here moving. Pretty standard move to Bothwy to subjugate. Good. Next move probably going to be to Naboo. rapid mob over here for the rebels. Early rapid mob for newer players, it's a great way to see, 4 systems that the Empire will not know about during the course of the game. So it gives you some opportunity to bluff where the base is. Also helps you plan for like a late move later on. Okay, so we've got Vader moving to Naboo. So now what Easy's likely thinking about here is, what if the Emperor is on like a loyalty mission, right? He could be on Imperial propaganda. And so if they build alliance in Utapau, Imperial propaganda would clear both of those loyalties off. All right, let's see what else we got going on here. So we did a sabotage followed by an R&D. Can do the R&D immediately after the sabotage. Pushes it back to Mothma. So she's got some choices to make. She can build alliance in Mon Cal, and that will protect against Imperial propaganda. And he did not expect Subvert. And Subvert ended up working, blocking the Mon Cal. So no temporary alliance, no build alliance, no Mon Cal cruisers at the beginning, and got an Imperial Star Destroyer for the Empire. So great turn for the Empire, unfortunate turn for the Rebels. Let's see how this plays out here. So for leaders, we've got Lando on the Rebel side, and then we've got Yularen on the Imperial side. Yularen's got a great action card, obviously. Empire's got a Star Destroyer on queue and no capital ships for the Rebels. So Rebels likely going to have to try to turtle up here. The ROTE deck with the Rebels requires a lot of firepower coming out of the base so you can score objectives. You can see Easy here picked Crippling Blow with his Infiltrate. So we've got a combat objective to score out of Dantooine here. All right. Grant pulls a promotion, also a deployment. Mothma is now making up for lost time with temporary alliance over in Utapau. So we got the Mon Cal and the Nebulon on the queue. Good for him to help catch up. A little bit delayed, but I think overall it should be okay. Also got a heist, a subversion, and a reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is a fun mission out of the ROTE deck, as it lets you double up on missions. The trick behind reconnaissance is you have to have a powerful mission to be able to recon it. So hopefully Easy draws something good here. He could put somebody on Subvert, but I think the Rebels are a little bit behind queue, so I think he's got the right idea with saving that for later. All right, we got a promotion, we got a capture, and we got a deployment all set up for Grant here on this side. So let's see how the back and forth goes. False orders hitting to remove... Yep, removing tag on the capture. All right. So tag is out. Promotion and capture are kind of fun to play in conjunction. You can promote Krennic's Finest to the area and then capture with tag, and you have a nice capture roll that can show up. All right, starting with an infiltrate. So we got infiltrate going on. Empire's got 2 moves. The first to Utapau. Oh, nope, 3 moves, I guess, because of false orders. First move to Utapau. Playing a couple cards here. See how this plays out. Blocking hits. I think Rebels have a chance to kill some units, but you guys might be thinking, like, why not play, the blow up a trooper card? And keep in mind he's got Crippling Blow as an objective, so he's going to need to save his good combat cards for opportunities to strike out and be aggressive. So in this case, I think it makes sense. Just take your loss while it's there. Vader is going to retreat now, and he's going to retreat back to Naboo. And while he's doing that, he's leaving the trooper in the tank. He's doing that because he has the 501st card, He's going to blow up the trooper here. The rebels may probably just throw away a card here. Yep. Okay, so that subjugates Utapau, also prevents Vader from being stranded there. Puts him in a position where he can be a little bit more aggressive and go back towards the middle of the board or up to Geonosis or over to Dagobah, back to Celeste. He's got a lot of different options with the retreat. And then you're not worried about decisive victory because you could guarantee winning the land combat there. Okay, up to Seleucami. That will allow him to block Mon Cal next turn, which will be the important turn to make sure that the rebels aren't building any more capital ships than they can. Sabotage in Bothui. That's okay. I don't love it because if the Empire still has a move left, they can just move everything out of Bothui and then let it be sabotaged its whole life. We'll see. Deployment, that's a fun use of deployment to pick up a subjugate. You don't always have to use it on remote planets, even though a lot of people like to do it. And then we've got a build alliance over in Nal Hutta. This is basically going to guarantee that Grant will move out of Bothui here, I think. He is also potentially threatening support of the Hutts here. So Grant's going to need to start thinking about that a little bit too. Sometimes if I leave a rebel sabotaged area, I like to leave a TIE fighter there if I don't have the probe card, which prevents them from rapiding to it at a later point in time. There was no TIE to leave there in this case, so we'll see how that works out. Okay, Easy does a rapid, looks at some cards at the probe deck. I should have moused over them for you guys, but I was not as active as I could be here. Okay, and then Easy draws cut supply lines, and that's where that decision to sabotage Bothui kind of hurts, is now you've got a sabotaged rebel system, and that's it. Cassian's going to pull under the radar, and the probe he's going to take is Tatooine, and then he's going to stick that under the radar card. So now at this point, Easy knows what the bottom 11 cards in the deck are, and he knows he's got Tatooine as a bailout here. All right, and then let's go with deployment here, or I guess leaders. We've got Jabba for the Empire, and we got Cassian for the Rebels. So lots of icons on this game. You got Yularen out, you've got Cassian out, lots of intel going on, Jabba the Hutt. And let's see what the Rebels play here. Got Seek Yoda with no Luke, but we do have a recruit card, so opportunity to get Luke in here, I think. Infiltrate, assault, sabotage. Looks good. And then still got Lando's card in the back here. Okay, Grant going for another round of captures here. And he's going to use Yularen's card to check the Dantooine and Ilum and Ord region. And the answer that Easy gives him is yes. Lucky pick there, but a good use of the card because there was no transport on Megiddo, so playing Yularen there doesn't necessarily cause a huge problem. It does open him up to being confronted, though, if the rebels decide to attack out into Megiddo. However, because Grant was careful about not putting 3 health worth of units there, no crippling blow can be scored. So I think if there was an extra stormtrooper there, Easy probably opens up with an attack to score a crippling blow. But when you're the Empire, you want to think about not putting 3 health worth of units on ground subjects, or unless you're going to put more than 3 health down. All right, opening up with an infiltrate and a gather intel. So Grant knows, Easy knows the bottom sets the probes. So it looks like he's going to try to pull pull some probes of his own. And then we are recruiting Luke Skywalker to Dantooine. Okay. So now if you're Grant, and granted you don't know if it's Ord or Ilum or Dantooine, but when the rebels are recruiting to Dantooine, gives you a pretty good idea that it's probably there. Okay, Grant pulls a Stolen Intel, and he has a choice. This card's kind of fun because you can discard a card. He gets rid of Seek Yoda, and then the other thing you do is you get to pay attention to what other missions are in play. So he knows there's a Build an Alliance and a Sabotage in play. He also knows that Easy's holding on to a heist, so you can time Death Star, secure the plans accordingly, or if he sees a raid outpost with Krennic's card, for example, he knows that Easy's got a heist in his hand. All right, let's see how we're doing here. So we're moving the assault carrier, the ties, the whole force at Mandalore into Megiddo. Leia is launching an attack out to get that carrier here. So no space missions yet, so everybody's got a full deck of space cards here. Easy is bringing a Corvette and a transport, because now he has the option to score Crippling Blow and leaves the speeder and a troop behind along with the starfighters. A little bit light on the attack, but we'll see how it goes. So the card could be blocking hits, or it could be canceling a card. He chooses to cancel the card from Grant here. Grant stays conservative, plays the assault carrier card. All is good. Only two hits total, one on the assault carrier. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you wanted to get the transport, maybe bring the Y-Wing and drop the Y-Wing card, but hard to know what the right move is in hindsight here. Okay, Grant's going to roll, and he's going to get one direct hit, two direct hits. So he's going to wipe the Corvette and the transport here. That's going to be a tough loss for Easy. I guess he can retreat too, but the transport card for retreat has already been done, plus he's looking to score a Crippling Blow here. And can do that with either tow cables or the Vanguard card, I think. Nope, he's going to blow up a troop. Okay, so no card next round for Easy, and then one Stormtrooper down, two left to go. And one red hit, doesn't do any good. There we go, one more black hit. And one left to go. Grant rolls a heal and a direct hit. Okay. So still two Stormtroopers against a speeder and a trooper. And Easy's got to make the decision to retreat, which he's going to do. He is also just retreating with the transport, but leaving the other leader and the troops into fight. So one red damage on the speeder, no card for Easy this turn, so he's got to roll a couple of hits. He does. So both troopers dead. Grant needs a heal and a direct hit, I think would be the Yahtzee roll here. If Easy brings some more units, he might have been able to pull off a confrontation here too. Probably not a huge deal one way or the other. Speeder survives. The assault carrier survives as well. I think potentially, yep, not going to overthink it. Just is what it is. That's the thing about this game, is hindsight's always 20/20 in terms of, should you have left the Corvette and just brought the transport? Should you have brought everything? I mean, who knows? Next move here, Star Destroyer moves to Coruscant. If you're thinking to yourself, well, yeah, I just would have obviously brought everything, well, then you need to think about what happens if the Imperials draw Ozzel and then have a Star Destroyer and an assault carrier and everything else hanging out in Ord. I mean, that's no fun for the rebels either. So kind of a hard to know exactly what the right move to do here is. But Easy needs to worry about getting things sabotaged to score cut supply lines for sure. All right, so let's see here. Got a capture pulled off against Dodana. I would say if you're capturing as Empire, one of the things I tend to overthink is which leader I'm capturing. Oftentimes I'll go for more valuable leaders with the idea of, it'll be more damaging to the rebels. The reality is if you capture anybody, it's probably fine. All right, here's another example of vacating Mustafar altogether and losing another sabotage system there for the rebels. So a good idea for sabotaging rebels if you're going to do cut supply lines is obviously try to hit subjugated places that have stormtroopers left behind. Or if you have a decent roller for sabotage, like not Riken, say Chewie or Wedge or somebody like that, to sabotage a place where somebody has just moved to. That could work as well, as long as it's not Vader, obviously. All right, so we've got Obi-Wan Kenobi with undercover, so rebels have lots of intel here for rescues. And we've got some deployment coming down the tube. And we've got Jar Gerard for the Empire. So 2 in the base, which for those of you who have forgotten is Dantooine. 1 to Ryloth. Keep in mind that Easy's got under the radar Tatooine saved up. And Grant's a little bit out of position to defend on that with the 1 Star Destroyer in Naboo. Let's see where he deploys here. ROTE. Mandalore, that makes sense, yep. So he knows it's either Ilum or Dantooine now for the current rebel base. And you guys will have remembered from my other videos, anytime rebels have under the radar, I really like to try to have a gather intel queued up, and I like to try to move last if possible. We'll see if Grant decides to do the same thing or not. All right, rebels lining up. They've got a behind enemy lines that they can queue up to, which is nice. That could score, threaten the core, although we're a little light on transport in the base currently. That's actually a good thing to note out here. If you're playing the ROTE deck as rebels, the transports can be helpful because you can be efficient with your behind enemy lines. You can bring 1 single transport with 4 troops in it. Transports are a little easier to build than Mon-Cals for those sort of things, and a little less valuable to sling out into the open here. Can also be used for cut supply lines too, if you were to use it to block off a sabotage or a subjugated system without wiping the ground units on there. Not quite as efficient, but it's one of the better cards in the ROTE deck, especially if you combine it with the idea that it's a logistics card or a tactics card, which means you cannot block it, like an Incite Rebellion, for example. All right, rebels are loaded up here. Empire has got gather intel missions set up. They've also got Ozzel's card, but I think he's not playing that to wait to see if he draws Ozzel with his next hero here. All right, opening up with either he's got a choice of Seize Control or Raid Outposts for Infiltrate, and he's going to go with Seize Control. Probably a little easier to score with the ROTE deck. I like Raid Outposts if you're holding on to Riken's card. His starting action card's really good for that. Okay, off to Toydari, and you can see Grant is leaving the tank in Nal Hutta, right? The idea behind leaving the tank is if you leave a stormtrooper, that can die to assault, whereas a tank cannot. So if you're playing against rebels here, or if you're playing against a rebel ROTE deck, consider leaving tanks as your garrison instead of stormtroopers, even though they can't heal themselves. They also cannot be assaulted. All right, Grant drawing some probes, more rapiding for the rebels. So rebels have a rapid queued up here. You have to think about, with your behind enemy lines now, where you want to move to, and if you're trying to, so what Easy's likely trying to do is set up a move to Tatooine here, is how I think this is going to play out. So that's why Under the Radar is such a great card. You can see here by sabotaging Utapau, he's also in a way prepping for Tatooine. He could have probably sabotaged ROTE as well. Can't see what hero that is, but I think it's a non-tactics or non-logistics hero. All right, we're going to go ahead and finish off the speeder in Megiddo here. And there's no opportunity for a tricky Imperial retreat because of Loyal Mandalore and also because of the transport that is in the base. So speeder is dead. I think it does not take anything with it. And then Tag is, or now Megiddo is a good staging ground for moving into either Dantooine or Ilum, both of which Grant still has as options. Okay, we're building an alliance in Geonosis, again prepping for a Tatooine move, and then Vader over to Geonosis with 2 tanks, or with AT-AT and AT-ST. So now the move that we'll see here, and take a look at what's on queue. We got some capital ships and Y-Wing on the queue here. So now the move with the behind enemy lines queued up is going to be to hit Vader, right? Good for a few reasons, but obviously if you can kill the Star Destroyer and or the ground forces, that's good. You've got Lando's action card set up too. So I missed the first part of this combat in the edit somehow. Apologies for that. But what happened was the Y-Wing scored 2 hits. The Imposing Presence blocked the hits, the red hit. So Star Destroyer has 2 damage on there. And then we're tow cabling the AT-AT. So Easy only brought 1 speeder because of the 1 U-Wing transport capacity. But keep in mind there's also a transport on top of the base, the non-revealed base. So Easy could have potentially revealed the base and then moved troops out of there. I think that's right. Pretty sure. But the downside to that being then you have less troops in the base. Grant knows immediately where you are, but potentially could have brought more. Also, bring the transport could have allowed you to play the transport block hits card. I don't know if that would have been better or not. It wouldn't have helped with applying damage, but might have given the Y-Wing another round to live. I don't know. That seems like that could have been a pretty risky play there. He does wipe the ground unit, which is nice. But unfortunately, the Star Destroyer is... Let's see if it takes a hit here. I don't actually remember. I do these editings over multiple days, so even though I edit the videos, sometimes I am surprised when I'm rewatching to do the voiceovers. Alright, so, and Grant rolls a heal. And so the Star Destroyer is alive with 3 hits, and 2 direct hits to wipe the rest of the units. The Star Destroyer is alive. There is still an AT-ST on queue. And then and then Easy goes ahead and puts Under the Radar on top of the deck. Again, that Tatooine move, which pretty much has to happen, but is what it is. Nice rolls by Grant. And Star Destroyers are tough to take down, so it's just what happens sometimes. All right, next up. So got a final move here. Grant could move that last Star Destroyer onto Megiddo, but instead he's going to try to cover the middle of the board a little bit with the Death Star. He's got the Endor and Hoth cards already, so he knows those aren't legitimate rapid locations, so he's just got to try to cover wherever he thinks the Under the Radar card might be. Okay. Again, I should have moused over these. You can see Tatooine. I also mouse over Utapau as an option on here as well, which is obviously covered. I don't know what the other two cards are. I think if I remember right, I saw one was Nal Hutta, which was also covered. But Tatooine's the only spot to move. So he reveals the base in Dantooine, puts the remaining units on there. Grant now can see there's only a few options. You can go Kashyyyk, Yavin, Dagobah, Tatooine. And then Easy's deployment's coming up. And he draws Chirrut with Trust in the Force here for his next hero he has coming up. So he's got a couple of interesting ideas that he could do. And then Grant draws Krennic with Lord Vader's orders. Because there's still a level 2 objective on the deck, Grant will then know for sure whether or not Easy has the Death Star plans, or is likely to or could have the Death Star plans. I didn't actually mouse over these to see what they were. And then with Easy's deployment, he's got the Moncal, and because of ROTE, or because of Ryloth, he actually has a few choices. He could move everything to Tatooine with the first move and consolidate on the base and take the offensive strike from the Star Destroyer if Grant decided to strike. He could be aggressive and attack out with everything into the Star Destroyer. And then with Chirrut's card and Trust in the Force, he might be able to, kill one of the Stormtroopers in Rhodia. There's 2 Stormtroopers that can move though, so he's in kind of a tough spot here. So let's see how this plays out. I don't know what the best move here is. I've been thinking about it for a little bit, and I think it's probably the best move is probably to have won the battle last round. It's all we got. If this were a base deck move, base deck, I think we're just in trouble in general here also. So Rebels are all set up with missions. Empire's got some choices to go with here too. You can see the Imperials drew Planetary Assault, so that'll be good for covering. He's got Yavin covered with Mandalore. He has Mustafar covered with the Death Star, or Dagobah covered with the Death Star, and then not Mustafar, the little guy in the Malastare covered with Toydaria. So he's got a few different options of what to do here. And then Easy's still got a handful of objectives to try to score out there too. All right, ambitions of power to get that last Krennic hero up to 9. If you remember earlier, Grant doing the promotion to grab Krennic's finest. And then the Death Star, even though it's hovering over a subjugated area at the moment, not really in any danger, just a single Y-Wing and Nebulon in the base. And Lando's going to open with an attack. Okay, so he's opening with an attack. He is bringing the Y-Wing from the base, leaving the Nebulon behind. He has to leave something behind because the assault carrier can just fly in with a single Stormtrooper and then wipe the Nebulon and then have the base conquered. So he can't really afford to bring everything here. He's going to need some rolls to go in his favor. So the Empire still has a TIE Fighter card. The Rebels are playing Fleet Logistics, obviously. Need to do some damage here. The Ion Cannon's already played, so he's going to need some lucky hits. I think the right flow here is probably to block hits, then flip the combat, do some damage, and then prevent them from healing next turn, I think is probably the right set of cards here. Empire is going to go ahead and send General Tag in to be more dangerous than originally anticipated, and he's actually going to grab ground cards here too, which will be nice because he can grab the ATST card and he can also grab Bombard, more valuable than flipping the combat here. And he wants the ground unit to be able to, storm. I don't know why he wants the ground unit. Maybe for the, whatever. He's got good space cards already, so we'll just leave it at that. Empire cannot play the flip the combat card because of fleet logistics, so they're going to have to deal with going second first. So better way to do is just do damage to the carrier. It's a great card to play there. And then Rebels will flip the combat. Unless they could also do a damage to the tie, but he's pretty likely to roll a hit with a black dice here. Okay, 1 critical hit for... Oh, no, maybe not. Yeah, there we go. Okay, 2 and 2 for Grant. He's going to roll 2 hits. 2 hits and a heal. Heal doesn't help. So Y-Wing's maxed out. Moncal's got 2. Lando striking back. 1 hit on the Star Destroyer. He's got to get that TIE Fighter, because if he doesn't get that TIE Fighter, that TIE card's going to come out next turn. All right, so 2 on the Star Destroyer. The Moncal heals back to 1. And then the Y-Wing is destroyed. All right, we got Bombard to kill 2 of the troops, and then easy flipping the combat here. So 2 Vanguards hit. 3 Vanguards hit. Or 2 Vanguards and a troop. And it's one of the hard things about using good combat cards early is you don't have them sometimes when you need them. Especially if you don't draw Saw's card there. So we got all three troops dead. AT-ST survived. And then we got to finish the space combat here too. Now, Easy could retreat here, but because he didn't reveal the base, he would have to retreat to Ryloth. So keep in mind that when you're attacking out of the base, if you want to retreat back to the base, you need to have the option of having a unit there if you have other loyalty nearby. I'm not sure retreating back to the base is right or not. It might have prolonged it a little bit because you'd have the Nebulon and the Moncal together. The Star Destroyer ends up winning that with the help of the TIE Fighter card and some good dice rolling. And then we've got a follow-up attack coming in with the Assault Carrier and the 2 Stormtroopers on Tatooine. For those of you who might be thinking, could have played Trust in the Force on ROTE, that is true, but all he needs is 1 Stormtrooper in, so would have only killed 1 of the 2 Stormtroopers there. Although maybe there's only 1 Stormtrooper there. I think there's 2. I think we just can't see the other one. I seem to remember there being 2 in game. All right. Final battle here. If the Empire wins this with a assault carrier versus a Nebulon. So flipping the combat, Nebulon misses, and assault carrier hits once. Throwing a card away, and then playing no card next round. So another good combat card by Grant. Anytime the Rebels are going to reset their... there it is. Anytime the Rebels are going to reset their combat cards, it's nice to play the Interdictor card to prevent them from playing Fleet Logistics again, for example. All right, well, that is the end of round 1. So that means your finals coming up here will be Grant versus Cookie. I won't spoil that because next week I'm already working on the losers bracket match, which is EZ versus Wombat. So I will have that one for you guys here in about a week. The summary on this one: congrats to Grant, victory on turn 5. I think it was actually turn 6 because we got our last leaders out. And then I'm looking forward to your comments, your feedback. Please make sure to like and subscribe if you like this content, and we'll keep it coming. All right, well, thanks to everybody for watching, and I will see you next week.